you need to have 51% and more than 50%. And so if you are having your referendum and you're at 51%, and here in Canada the discussion, oh no, that's, they don't have a big majority. So, but if the US is saying, no, 51%, it's okay, you're independent. Because to be independent, you need to be the recognition of other countries first. That's very important. And having a recognition by the US, that will be it. That will be. You won't need, all these Fed leaders, establishment leaders in Ottawa, Poliev or Carney. Oh no, you just have 51%. You're not independent. If the US said, yeah, I recognize that you're independent, that's it. So that's a new development. We didn't have that in 1995.
Hey everybody, PJ here. International recognition is one of the most crucial steps that any would-be country, would-be nation has to go through. This is like a stamp that adds legitimacy to the claim of nationhood of the would-be country, so that it is not considered a rogue or illegitimate territory in the eyes of the international community. Getting it from any nation, any established nation state, gives credibility to the independence process. But receiving it from the United States, the most powerful nation in the planet, that will be the ultimate game changer. When this happens, Alberta becomes a country on that day. Alberta becomes the newest nation state on that very day. Let's get into the video. Very quickly though, if you enjoy these videos, please do me a solid and subscribe. It's free and you can always unsubscribe later if you change your mind. Thank you, and back to the video.
Independent Alberta would keep $20 billion for every new pipeline that's built. So Keystone XL is coming, so we know that, so there's another $20 billion. We've been to, like Dennis, myself, and others have been to Washington to meet with the US administration. They will support Alberta independence. They're very excited about Alberta independence from the standpoint of US national security and freeing the Alberta oil reserves from a security of supply perspective from control of the Chinese communists that govern Ottawa.
Oh boy, think about Trump. So now if he gets Alberta and Saskatchewan, he gets the world's third largest reserve of oil and gas in the world, with an existing infrastructure tying it to his country. He gets, all the forestry, both in Saskatchewan and Alberta. He gets massive agricultural production capability, livestock and so on, grains, oil seeds. One of the largest reserves, if not the largest, I'm not sure of that, but one of the largest reserves of potash, which is fertilizer to grow food and other things. One of the largest reserves of uranium for nuclear power and all of those things. Like, holy smokes, man. Eastern Canada is just reckless in how they're treating the West.
The Alberta Prosperity Project is the not-for-profit organization leading the effort to see Alberta become independent from Canada. They've recently deposited the application to begin collecting signatures to have a referendum vote in 2026. This is a grassroots-led movement with an army of motivated volunteers who hope to see their province become its own independent nation. They've been having town hall meetings and rallies all over Alberta this summer, and will continue their education campaign in hopes of increasing support for a yes vote in the upcoming referendum. Getting that 50% plus one is the ultimate goal, but just as important is what comes after, and having international recognition will be very important for Alberta after declaring its independence. The APP had a delegation visit Washington, D.C. to speak with officials in the Trump administration to see whether they would support Alberta's effort in self-determination. The APP states that the response was positive and supportive, and they confirmed that the United States government would recognize an independent Alberta after a successful vote.
Main questions in this larger debate is whether or not Alberta should actually separate and become its own country, or whether or not it should at least try to become a more sovereign province inside a United Canada. And I'm of the former view. I don't think that trying to find a different path inside Canada is feasible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of what Canada is now, what it's become, and maybe what it always is.
Yeah.
Well, always was. But there are different opinions about this.
What
Yep.
was the, if you had to like, was it a general consensus or was it kind of all over?
It wasn't unanimous, but
Yeah.
but the feel that I got from many of the speakers, I think I found myself thinking that I was on the same page as many of the speakers.
Yeah.
That the moment has passed now for trying to reconcile with the rest of Canada, because, well, for my own reasons for that is because Canada is a different country than a lot of people think that it is. Over these past 5 years especially, now it was apparent before that, but in many ways our disbelief got in the way of seeing what Canada actually is. But the last 5 years especially has demonstrated to a lot of people that the country that they thought that they lived in does not actually exist. It's a different place with a whole lot of different characteristics than the one they were thinking of.
Yeah.
The last 5 years have served as the ultimate wake-up call to many Canadians, especially in the province of Alberta. They've woken up to the reality that the country they grew up in no longer exists. This place they live in today is but a shadow of what it once was. Yet they see a portion of the population celebrating and even defending the decay. The disconnect is obvious. There are people in Alberta who still have some hope left that Canada can still be reformed from inside. That if we keep trying, Canada could improve its political landscape to give Alberta a fair deal within Confederation. Though the amount of people who think this way continues to decrease as they realize that Canada does not want to change, let alone for the benefit of Alberta, it is important to still acknowledge that there are some who support Alberta sovereignty but view it as a mechanism to force change, and they wouldn't be wrong in thinking that. If anything can shock Canada to its core, to the point of creating radical change for the better, would be for Alberta to officially move towards fully separating from Canada. Without Alberta, the Federation falls apart economically, and they know it. The question is, though, will Alberta accept any other offers?
Canada is an anomaly for a modern democracy in that other countries do not put into their constitutional framework a process for a region of the country, province of the country, or a state of the country to leave, to declare independence. They don't do that. Canada has. And it was in 98, as you know, as arising from the Quebec referendum succession movement. And so the Supreme Court of Canada has laid out a legal pathway for a province to vote to declare itself to be independent, and then the steps that are necessary to complete the process of that province becoming its own country. And what's also unusual from an international norms perspective, from an Alberta perspective or Canadian perspective, is Alberta is the only province that has put in every step of the way legislation, right from the Citizen Initiative Act, to allow citizens to petition the Alberta government to hold a referendum, and referendum legislation to allow the referendum on independence to be held.
All right, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Special thanks to those of you who have donated to this project. It is much appreciated, and it helps me continue making videos. See you on the next one. Peace.